In a world where people stop aging at 25, time is the most valuable commodity. Will Salas, a 28-year-old man, lives in a poor neighborhood and struggles to make ends meet as the cost of living continues to rise. Instead of money, everything in this world is based on time. Will's clock has activated, and he only has 1 year left unless he earns more time. He works in a factory for a couple of hours, and after work, he goes to a bar where he meets his best friend who is always drunk. In the bar, there's a rich man with a century on his clock, and Will knows that the man will be killed for that time. Suddenly, some mobsters appear, kicking everyone out of the bar, including the rich man. The mobsters won all that time, so Will fights them for it. He ends up saving the rich man and hiding him from the bad guys all night. Henry is a man who has lived for 105 years and is tired of living. He wants to die once, and for that reason, he goes to a dangerous neighborhood to get drunk in a bar. Henry tells the story of how the rich are able to live forever by sacrificing the lives of the poor. The next morning, Will finds Henry dead with a note that urges him not to waste his time. Will's best friend, Volio, is an alcoholic, and Will does the worst thing possible. He gives him 10 years, which leads him to go back to the bar that night. Will's mother works hard, but can't afford to take the bus to meet her son, so she runs to him. But just as they are about to touch each other's arms, they are interrupted by Raymond Leon, the leader of the timekeepers, who are like the police in this world. They discover Henry's body, and now they want to know where it is. After the death of his mother, Will decides to leave the poor area and seek revenge in Greenwich, a wealthy residential area on the outskirts of the city. He takes a taxi and pays expensive tolls to cross different time zones. Once in Greenwich, Will sees how the rich people live in peace without the need to constantly be on the run. He goes to a hotel, buys an expensive suit, and begins to enjoy the luxuries of the wealthy like eating, sleeping, drinking champagne, and going to the casino. However, the police, who have been watching the cameras, realize that someone has moved through different zones and suspect Will of killing Henry. Now they are searching for him. At the casino, Will sits down at a poker table across from a wealthy man who has 6,000 years on his watch. They strike up a conversation and bet 200 years. Will bets everything he has and only has 30 seconds left on his clock, but the movie still has an hour left, so he conveniently wins and takes home 1,000 years as a prize. After the game, the wealthy man introduces him to his daughter, Sylvia, who invites him to a party the next night. Will buys an expensive car and goes to the party. Sylvia talks to him and realizes that he comes from the ghetto, but it doesn't bother her. She is more concerned that with all that time on his clock, he never takes any risks. So he takes her to the beach and they go into the sea. The police later come and interrogate Will. Will explains to the police that he won everything legally, but they don't believe him. They take his time, and he only has 2 hours left. Will escapes and kidnaps the daughter of the wealthy man. The police chase after him, but he evades them driving like Toretto, despite not having a car previously. Eventually, they return to their city. He crashes the car after running over debris left by the previous mafia. After the crash, the mafia shows up and steals the girl's time, but they have to leave. Now they only have 35 minutes left each. As their time runs out, they go looking for their friend, but his wife tells them he got drunk and died with 9 years left on his clock. They end up selling summaries for 2 more days. Later, Will goes to Mr. Weiss and asks for 1,000 years for the ransom of his daughter. He also talks to Leon about the death of Will's father, but it doesn't matter because the plot never explains what happened to Will's father. Later, they go to their house and Sylvia asks him questions about his family and tells him about her mother running out of time and her father being a fighter. Will explains to her how his father used to win fights by waiting until the last moment when his time was about to run out, and when the opponent looked at his clock and got distracted, he would turn his arm and end up winning. The next morning, they were waiting for Will's father to send the time for the ransom, but he doesn't send anything. So Will tells Sylvia to call the police to pick her up because the kidnapping is over. While Sylvia is talking to her father, the timekeeper shows up with a gun pointed at Will, but Sylvia shoots him, revealing him to be a police officer. But don't worry, the police officer is alive and another officer picks him up. Our 2 main characters steal some money, take a car, and spend the night there. While on the run from the police, Will and Sylvia decide to rob a money lending place owned by Sylvia's father. who is a wealthy banker who charges exorbitant interest rates to poor people for lending time. They arrive at the place with the truck, break a few windows, and conveniently, there are no police and the vault is wide open. By the time the police arrive, it's too late. They start distributing all the time they stole among the poor, and on TV, it's reported that during the last 5 days, there were several similar robberies. However, it is not explained how two people with guns could have robbed so many places in such a short time. Meanwhile, the mafia continues to kill and steal from the people in the ghetto, and now they are targeting Will as the police have offered a reward of 10 years for his capture. Meanwhile, the couple is in a hotel and the police show up, but they manage to escape through the roof and then on a bus where the same driver who wouldn't let Will's mother on is driving. That night, they go to a hotel and rent all the rooms so that no one bothers them. But just as they're going up to their room, they are seen by a man. Later, the mafia captures a group of random people to find out where Will is, but a poor guy doesn't have any idea, and they kill him. Another person saw them at the hotel and tells them where they are in exchange for part of the reward, although he probably thinks they're already dead. So the mafia goes into the hotel and captures Will and Sylvia, but they make the same mistake as with the millionaire in the bar. They give Will a chance to fight, but the fight scene is not exciting. Will seems to be going to die, but using the same technique as his father, he waits until the opponent gets distracted and kills them all. But all this giving money to the poor doesn't serve any purpose because the rich just increase the interest rate on loans, increase the cost of living, and solve the problem. To make a really big change, they need 1,000,000 years, so they go back to New Greenwich to see Mr. Weiss. Will and Sylvia come up with a plan to infiltrate the headquarters of a powerful businessman, Mr. Weiss, who controls the distribution of time in their society. Will poses as a bodyguard and gains access to the building where they successfully steal a device containing a large amount of time. However, Mr. Weiss reveals to them that for a select few to live forever, many must sacrifice their time. As the police give chase, Will and Sylvia make their escape, but not without leaving some of the stolen time behind for a poor individual they come across. They continue to evade capture and outsmart the authorities, but not without casualties. They come to realize the gravity of their actions and the true cost of immortality in their society. At that moment, Will and Sylvia realize that they have less than a minute left on their clock because if they stole 1,000,000 years, they were taking them with them in the car for hours, but they forgot to put some time there. They realize that in the car, the police have some time and they run to look for it. Will arrives first, and in a scene similar to the beginning, he reaches Sylvia and now both survive at least until the next day. Meanwhile, the citizens of the poor region begin to immigrate and cross the wealthiest places where nobody knows what they are going to do to live. Willie and Sylvia continue being fugitives, and now the reward for them is 100 years, and they now dedicate themselves to robbing even bigger banks, really big ones. So now there are two options. They either have the vault open or they have security, and they go to jail like in any real-life bank. That was the price of tomorrow. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell to not miss the next videos.